is particularly going to be on security and how this nation can get itself together and get out of this quagmire. So today, the Inspector General of Police, Atolagbe, flagged off the training for the Special Intervention Squad. This is what he told them at that event.
With the conception of the SIS, mobilization of officers and men, it is only logical that the men be given specialized training to enable them imbibe new skills and orientation, which will adequately prepare them for the task ahead. Therefore, it's a major milestone towards the full operationalization of the SIS across the length and breadth of our country. As you are all aware, on the 17th January 2024, I formally launched the squad in FCT. Operatives of the squad have since commenced intensive operations, reinvigorating the offensive against criminal elements by taking the battle to their hideouts.
There's been some concerns over our security situation in the country. We've seen what has happened in Plateau State, in Mangu local government especially. The governor there declared curfew, and afterwards there was an attack. The chief of army staff had visited, made a tour of that state, and he was warning and telling the troops on the ground that they should bring down anyone who is having weapons and who are terrorists in the state. Let's get some perspective. There is a man who was a former commander of Operation Safe Haven there in Plateau State. He joins us tonight to give an understanding of how do we deal with some of these insecurity situations. General Anthony Atolagbe joins us live here in our studio. He's a retired military general. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers.
If I can get your sincere and kind opinion on the way and manner things have gone over the last month, what do you think could have been responsible for, if I say resurgence, I might be right, if I say the spate, the increase or the rise in some of these criminal and violent activities? What do you think could be the cause?
What usually happens will be that when incidents take place in the past, we do reviews. When we do reviews, it takes us to what we call reviewing of our concept. And then when you do a review of the concept, it gives you a new approach to dealing with the situation. This is not to say that those in the aim of affairs are not doing such things. When you do reviews, we call it after action review. And then you have lessons learned. So that leads you to what will be the concept development. Now, these reviews, are they coming out with the deductions that will address the situation? That now becomes what we need to deal with. Okay, for me, I think there's been a lot of efforts that are being put in place by the various commanders on the field, and I just think that certain things need to also be applied. You can change you can amend the status of what you are doing on the ground, or you do a complete overhaul and see how a new approach to doing it might work better. We're not talking about military. We're not directing our speech at the military or the police now. We're talking about the entire security arrangement that is on the ground. For example, the squad that the police IG is launching,
SIS.
Yes, at the federal capital. I think, for me, it's long overdue because these issues continue to reoccur. So why don't you move and go to 6 geopolitical zones and cite a group each with mobility? We're not talking about cars.
It's going to be, they're going to be like an elite squad.
Yes, so you position at least 2 helicopters or 3 with them, so that when there is any report coming from any of the states within that geopolitical zone, they can move in.
In less than 30 minutes.
In less than 30 minutes, less than 20 minutes. So if you have this type of thing in place in the past, I think it will be able to address, to give a quick reaction. Because if you check the December incident in Plateau State, it took so long, and the information will not even come to you on time, as if there is something perhaps that distorts the network around the area, because you just find out that they will have almost completed all the things they want to do before the information gets to the people that are required to take action. So these are some of the areas that we need to start addressing.
You have talked about, on this program, you've talked about how technology can help us to deal with these issues. Let's imagine that we have this elite squad, like you have suggested, to be in the different region of the country, the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. But there are those who will say, and you are one of those who have said, technology is very critical. What is stopping us from acquiring the right technology to deal with this situation and do some kind of area surveillance of our territorial space?
I want to say that I'm not indicting anybody, but if you check, when there is an incident involving high-profile people, you discover that within 24 hours, you started hearing of arrest. But when something happens in other places, it takes days, or perhaps crying and pushing coming from the populace before you start hearing that some people have been arrested. This needs to be questioned, and the right tools needs to be deployed on the ground. We have passed that time when somebody will tell us that we didn't hear on time, or we don't have the facility. I have worked on the field. The facilities are there.
Really?
The facilities are there. They only need to be employed at the right time and at the right place.
There are those who believe that we do not have the manpower. The right, the wherewithal, the equipment, the hardware, the area surveillance, the drones to be able to do some digital surveillance of the space.
I want to say that the police are better equipped than the military when it comes to that particular, using tech to track phones and the rest of it. So they have some equipment that even when your phone is off, after you have committed an act, they can track your phone.
So it's easy for the police to monitor the kidnappers.
For as long as the battery of that phone is there, that phone, they will get to the point where that phone is sitting down, and I've used it severally, and they will get the person who owns that phone. So let's not, if they say they don't have enough, fine. Let the government get money and equip them so that in maybe every local government where police presence is located, this equipment can be made. But these are reactions to the situation. We are talking about what can we do to prevent some of these things from even taking place at all. And that, I think, should be the business of government now.
So, if we are to look at it holistically and how to arrest the situation, because all of a sudden we've started to hear kidnappings in Lagos, kidnappings in Kaduna, in the FCT, in Taraba, in most part of the country. So it's sort of spreading. And there are those who will say, oh, these things are exaggerated. But in the minds of the average citizen watching tonight, what do you think that the government can do immediately to show that they are on top of the situation?
I will just give you one example. Downtown Manhattan in New York, just a set of 4 policemen sat down and discovered that the rate at which people are committing crime was too high. And they suggested to the authority that there was need to deploy CCTV across the town. And that's what is going on. And they have helicopter patrols. It's not only when incident happens that you deploy patrols. They have helicopter both day and night flying over New York, over major cities, just to ensure that the place is secured. But we have seen instances in the past where helicopters purchased are used to carry families, except if those things have stopped now. So what do? People need to take their job seriously. Government must show the will. And when we are saying will, it's not just on the part of government alone. What about the CSOs? What about the ministries, MDAs? I said somewhere that National Hospital can say, look, for casualties coming from the military, we have created a ward that will take care of any major incident, any major, maybe somebody experiencing serious shots on the body or something like that. So those are some of the things every ministry will key in and say, look, we are providing this level of support. But until you call on some of them, or until you even have to give a mandate to some of them, it's as if it's federal government's job, so it's not our business. Let everything continue the way it is.
So, General, I will imagine that there was a strategy that the service chief, led by, the Chief of Defense Staff and the National Security Advisor, I will imagine that this government came with a strategy when President Tinubu was sworn in and when he appointed these service chiefs. I will imagine that they have the modus operandi in which they wanted to secure the nation. Does it look like that kind of strategy isn't working? Maybe they need to rejig or start all over again. What do you think?
Okay, it's just what we are still saying about the police rejigging now. They had come in perhaps dwelling on those arrangements that were in place before now. But seeing the nature of the threats that are coming in, let's ask ourselves. We were talking about deployment of CCTV in the correctional services when we had the attack there. We don't even know what has happened. Has anything happened to that man or those individuals that were supposed to carry out, to be involved in doing the right thing at those places? Even this national hospital we are talking about, those are major targets for terrorists. Do they have CCTVs? Our stadiums, do they have CCTV? These are, if you want to do any massive attack on anybody, Wuse Market, do they have CCTV? There's somebody who is sitting, calling himself the person who is giving authority over all these estates. Have they thought about the security of these people? Okay, what about, can't we just look beyond what we are doing before? FCT minister wants to handle everything. How? It's not possible. The security commanders wants to be in charge of, okay, the brigade of guards that we are using here, they are for ceremonials. They're supposed to be the one protecting the president. Most of them are deployed outside. Why can't we have a security outfit? Put a brigade here, put another police command in Abuja, not this administrative one that we are doing, that are kind of to respond to any situation at any short notice. And there is a place you are going to position them. You take some to Zuba area, you put some in, if you go to Rwanda, you understand what I'm saying. If you go to Kenya, you will see what I'm saying. If you go to Egypt, along the street in the market, you will see a policeman in white holding a walkie-talkie in Cairo. And you ask yourself, can't we replicate some of these things?
And I'd like to ask you, you saw what the general who was commanding in Kaduna, who was talking about what happened when the chief of army staff crash landed and died, and was talking about the situation of things, the issues of those who are linked to terrorism, and the names that are, you being on the ground before, if some of those things came out of that kind of military high-ranking officer, should the government of the day be taking a critical look at those kind of statements?
I watched an Air Force Air Vice Marshal on TV. I was not out, I was just outside and I was watching him, and I was just laughing because maybe he has his own source of information, but I don't think Ali Kefi can just come on air because he has been maltreated, and people should listen to him. He may be saying the wrong thing, as the Air Vice Marshal was saying, but he deserves to be listened to if he has his facts. And that is a statement will perhaps create a pathway to making the military a better place to serve. So we cannot say that a Major General will just wake up from sleep, and because he doesn't have something to say or he wants a national honor or whatever, then he'll start talking. I think we should not just rubbish what the guy is saying.
Let me take you to Plateau, where you served as a commander in charge of Operation Safe Haven. We see what is happening now in Plateau, in Mango, and in about 4 local governments. On eve of Christmas, we saw what happened. I mean, having served in that territory, what do you think should be done urgently to arrest the situation?
Okay, there are measures that were discussed when I was there. This kind of attack took place. The vice president came, the president also came. And the president insisted that, look, it's not even the commander that is the problem, that certain things are wrong somewhere and they need to be addressed. And we have always emphasized this. Except government takes some of these things and delve closely into some of these areas, you will just be dealing with the periphery. There are some in-depth issues that needs to be called in so that people can discuss them and find a way to resolve them. When they are resolved, it will create the pathway to doing other things. What are these other things? Providing security on the ground. Providing security, if you don't have equipment, for God's sake, there's what I call saturation. Fill the entire ground space with security agencies. NNCDC, police, military, fill the entire space.
But we say we don't have enough.
That is the problem of both the government and the military and the police, because people will keep dying if they don't generate more people to occupy some of these positions. And if you are talking about finances, let's just see, you don't have to depend on government every time to finance you. There are security outfits created by countries around the world. And I will give Rwanda as an example again. They have a lot of their military personnel deployed in all these oil-rich countries that are protecting all their pipelines and their factories. And they are paying them heavily for that. Then, if you see a country like Rwanda having 4 battalions in a UN mission, just look at the kind of money that comes into that country from that UN mission deploying 4 battalions. That money will go a long way to service in every other thing that perhaps the military will be looking up to. In fact, the government will even be benefiting more. But I think maybe we just have a company or 2 outside the country as at this moment. Gone are those days when we used to have like 4 battalions in Sudan, 2 battalions in Sierra Leone, in Liberia at the same time. That's about 6 battalions. And if they are well equipped and they are they have all the requirements to deploy on the field, the UN pays massively for that.
So if you have to tell President Tinubu tonight one thing about fixing the insecurity, because there seems to be some escalation, what do you think, as he is the the commander-in-chief of the armed forces tonight, what would that advise, just in 30 seconds before we close?
If the opportunity is given, that is, if at all it is given, we only need to look inwards, change the dynamics of what we are doing right now, find new things to do. Get the FCT, for example, to have a kind of security outfit. It's not just the president alone and his ministers that are in Abuja. A lot of infrastructures are here. And we can't just afford to let one individual kit himself with IEDs and just go and destroy them overnight. When we have this kind of arrangement on the ground, there will be security. When we go to the various geopolitical zones and position some rapid response team around these areas where there are recurrent activities going on by these criminals, then we know that we are taking new steps, changing the scenario, and then we are making sure that things can get better.
General Anthony Atolagbe, a retired Nigerian military general who's been speaking with us. He was the commander of Operation Safe Haven in Plateau State, sharing perspectives on how to resolve the insecurity situation in the country. Thank you so much, General, for your time tonight.
Thank you very much, and good night, audience.